Hello, it's Luton, and this is Late Night Randoms. That's right, because it's late night. And joined by Heartless. He's a good friend of mine. Has a Let's Play. Would it be Let's Play or Playthrough? What do you prefer?
What? Of what?
Everything. What would you classify your channel as?
I'd say Let's Play, just because playthroughs I'd consider the people know what they're doing, whereas I don't.
So, and I haven't done a late night random for a while, so some of you guys might not actually know what these are even. I just get other producers that I know or people that I know, friends, and we just talk about anything, really. It's been quite nice. I haven't done these for ages, but it was quite a staple of my channel early on. But I have to say it's kind of nice because sometimes my channel can get a bit serious, you know, and it's good to have something that's a bit more whimsical. Your channel's very serious though, isn't it? It's,
My channel? Oh yeah, serious as it gets, yeah. Stealing skulls off of tables and then getting shot for it. Yeah,
that was very good. What was one of the other things I was watching? I was watching back through some of your stuff, and whenever I do my sort of playthrough of games, I get so kind of pent up. I should really stop being so anal about it and kind of, you know, I worry like, okay, if I if I clear my throat or whatever, that kind of thing bothers me. But there was a great episode of yours, I think it was Cthulhu, and you started off and you're like, right guys, there's going to be a lot of noise of me eating Maltesers and blah 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 today, so if you hear that, it's because I'm eating Maltesers. And then all the way through the game, every now and then it's just like it's just really, really good.
Yeah, that was somebody got really annoyed about that in, I think it was Penumbra or something, because it was in the middle of a cutscene and I decided that I wanted to have a bag of crisps, so I was just like
that's really good.
People are like, shut up. I'm like, sorry, I was hungry.
It really what is it? Oh, people keep pulling me up on my pronunciation of things. Sorry guys, I'm pouring a drink. This is a good example of what we're talking about.
Unprofessional.
Yeah, I know, seriously. People pull me up on my pronunciation of things, and it's like, I'm not saying it wrong, it's just my voice. Like, you know, when people say I'm saying like what was it? I talk about in Battlefield, there's a map called Seine Crossing, but I sometimes pronounce it as Seine because it's got, but it's French, so it's like Seine or whatever, you know, you say it differently. Yeah. I'm English, I'm not French. I mean, you know,
YouTube experts.
Actually,
you know, it's pronounced Seine.
I've had so many, always with there's also some of the new maps that came out, like Azadi Palace. People were like, it's Azadi or blah, blah. I don't care. It's just a map. I don't care. It's always good. It's like I can never remember the official names for things, and especially
I feel stupid doing accents. Like if somebody like for that, like, you know, the Azadi or whatever, or Azadi, you know, however you're supposed to pronounce it. If I were to, you know, whatever language it was, if I did the accent for that, I would then be worried that people would think that I sound stupid, or I was making fun of their accent.
Yeah, exactly. It's true, you know. So I think the best thing to do is just say it in your own way, and I don't think there's, you know, in my mind, I don't think there's like a wrong way to. I mean, unless it's so clearly out of it, but just a little bit. That's just an accent. It's not. It's not wrong. It's just an accent. I mean, my other classic one is people thinking that you've misspelled something when actually it's just a US UK difference of spelling something.
Yeah, like colour. Yeah.
Defense is always a great one because. In the US, I think they always spell with an S, and in the UK we spell obviously defense, like military defense, with a C. And so many videos I've talked about where I'm doing, like, you know, defense on whatever it is, you know, Noshar Canals or something like this, and they're like, oh, you've spelt this incorrectly.
It's
and
the
then
same
it's
with
just
license
like,
as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
like we spell it Likunk, whereas I think, don't Americans spell it Likens?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, there's a little difference. There's a lot of little differences like this. But it's just funny how people jump on the whole "you're wrong" bandwagon straight away, and it's like, no, you've just failed to understand that one. But yeah, there's a lot of small differences like that. So, what have you been playing lately the most? Whether it's for your channel or not, like, what have you been?
I've been playing either Dark Souls or I've been playing this CTM map on Minecraft.
I've seen
From
that.
Ashes.
Yeah. How long is it? Quite long. That is it. Quite a lot to do.
It's a huge open world, and there's lots of dungeons. I think it's based. I wouldn't say it's based off of the Vex maps, but like it's these ultra hardcore maps, and they've got spawners everywhere, and like zombies with TNT for heads and stuff, and it's just it's mental.
It sounds really good. I'll have to check out some more of that.
Yeah, but I also recorded some of that Slender the Arrival beta earlier, and it was it's a vast improvement. It's very scary, I have to say.
Loads of people talked about like DayZ in the past. Did you ever play that? Did you have an inclination to play that even?
I wanted to play it because it seemed good, and I even bought the War Z when it came out because it looked basically the same, but you didn't have to faff with modding and that. But then the War Z turned out to be a disappointment that Steam refunded me for.
Oh, that was awful. Yeah, I saw the whole video about that with what's it called, Cynical Brit, isn't it?
Yeah, Total Biscuit, Halibut or something.
Yeah, and I watched his whole video, and I have to say, I quite like him as a commentator. I don't always enjoy everything that he does, but that was one of the things that I really liked. You know, it worked really well, and it was so funny. He went through and he really did like dissect it and cut it down.
Yeah, he just played through it, didn't he? And like then people were spawning, but they were just backpacks and stuff.
Well, there was like a really great example because the difference with this game, the War Z, was like you'd have to. It was like free to play it, and then you'd have to buy items and so on and so on. But
game stuff.
Yeah, but then he was like, his example was like, okay, I've bought this item, and then he spawns in game, and out of the whole world that you could spawn in, it spawned him right next to another player who just ran straight up to him and like smacked him to death with a torch.
That's because there's like one spawn spot.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
like I liked how he goes like, oh, I've bought this baseball bat thingy, and then he died and he lost it and it was gone. Like he's like, I've bought that with real money and it's gone. If you die, it's gone.
Instantly gone. It was just literally such a awful, exploitative, like bizarre thing. So yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, DayZ, or DayZ. DayZ. Well, first of all, you have to buy Armour and Armour 2, and I've not bought those games. But if I had them, I might go through the whole thing of playing DayZ, like downloading the mod and having to install it and all that. But aren't they retail releasing it now? Or like,
yeah, apparently, which makes a lot of sense. But it's also very interesting that you can go from just a mod to a full game release, and I think it just kind of, I think it kind of shows the power and the benefit. What modding has to offer. There's so many, modding has gone from being what used to be quite stupid. Like I remember when I was still at school in like sixth form, and we used to have like 5 or 6 PCs land up, and we'd go and play Half-Life at lunchtime, or during free periods or whatever, and we just play Half-Life, like 6 or 7 of my friends or more, and we had loads of mods on those PCs, like stupid character models, extra maps, weird guns and things like this, and it was just a lot of fun. I mean, one of my favourite ones was the character models that we had. We had some crazy Half-Life character models. One of the best ones was Kermit the Frog. Yeah. And he was tiny. Like Kermit the Frog was literally about like a quarter of the height of all the other characters, and it wasn't like an invisible hitbox either. It was literally like that was his height, so you had to really hit him. So there's like Kermit the Frog running around with a crossbow that's like 4 times his size or whatever, and you're trying to like hit hit Kermit the Frog with a massive rail gun and failing every time. It was very, very irritating, but there was loads of good little things. It looked hilarious as well in game. But I think you've gone from like those kind of stupid mods, which were just literally and often quite glitchy, to much more sophisticated things. Just look at, I mean, for example, it's been happening for ages. Think about games like World of Warcraft, all right? World of Warcraft. Did you ever play that, by the way?
No.
World of Warcraft, and I played it for years and years. World of Warcraft, it ended up kind of, you could play it in the basic way, but people that were in proper raiding guilds were reliant on external mods for their UI and for like in-game warning systems and stuff. It took Blizzard ages to bring actually some of the systems that people have been using for years into place. Things like kind of raid warnings, raid screens and so on, so you could see all your other characters and all these kind of things. Yeah. So mods often kind of really, really support game. They're not just an extra thing. They really strongly support the kind of structure of a game. I think it's really, really interesting.
They're adding a lot of things as
well, people take it really serious. Like modders take it serious. It's not like a little extra thing. There's a lot of modders out there who will update their stuff. They do it really professionally. It's not like some crappy, person in their bedroom just going, "Oh, I made this stupid thing." It's not. They take it really seriously.
I swear that Left 4 Dead started off as a mod for Half-Life 2, didn't it?
It probably did. I haven't played that, so sorry. That sounds ridiculous. It's because I don't have a PC at the moment, so I wouldn't have played those kind of things. But
yeah, well, Left 4 Dead is. I'm sure that it started off as a mod for Half-Life 2, and then
it seems believable. Yeah, I've seen it and I know
because
I know what it is.
Built on the engine and that. So
yeah, exactly. So,
I could be wrong. So.
No, it does look very, very similar. I wouldn't be surprised. But
yeah,
I mean, that's another interesting point is the whole kind of cloning thing from games when you think back to kind of older games. I mean, I've used this example before, but kind of like Doom. Obviously, as soon as Doom was made, all of a sudden there were tons of various clones built off the same model coming out and stuff like that. So, but yeah, when it comes to kind of modding, I really feel like it needs to go further. I tell you what though, there's two kind of good things. One is like the Minecraft thing. Now, you must have a fairly good opinion about this in terms of the modding, and I'm not the first person who's mentioned this. There's a few other people that I do videos with who have talked about this recently. And it comes to the whole thing of how slow the producers of Minecraft are at bringing things into the game compared to modders.
Yeah.
Now, we're not expecting them to make these kind of huge sweeping changes to the game and in the same way that modders do, but they could be doing more, surely, with the money they must have made from that game. How have they not done so much more?
I don't know, it's about to break 10 million or something, isn't it, sales?
Yeah, and it's like, what are they doing with that, seriously? And the other thing is, I can understand though on some sort of level that maybe they don't want to change the game too much. It started off as the beauty of it. And I think this is something people miss far too often, right? Is that the beauty of Minecraft is its simplicity. The fact that it's not overcomplicated, that it doesn't have all this extra crap. What people loved about Minecraft was that it was simple. That it was just literally about simplicity and building and using your imagination and not having tons of crap in there. And everyone's going, add loads of mods. Yeah. And it's kind of like, to me, it kind of ruins the entire point of what you're taking the game and turning it into something else. And to me, that kind of utterly ruins it. And I think that's why, mods are an extra thing. So if you want to add these things on, then you can. So I can see it from both sides. I can understand why people feel they could have done more, and I do. I kind of agree. I feel like they could have done a bit more than they have, but I think they are making more changes as they go on. But
they are. I mean, especially lately, they're adding more and more stuff more quickly. Like, for instance, they come out with the enchantment tables, then they came out with this, that. They've brought in new mob AIs, but as far as mods go, I keep it quite vanilla, as they call it.
Yeah, me too.
The only thing that I use on Minecraft is the Wayukian texture pack, because I just think it's really pretty and it's not too far from the default. And also, what do I use? Oh, I use Optifine because, for some reason, even somehow the creators have made it incredibly difficult to run. Like earlier, I was playing it, and for some reason, I don't know whether my computer was just being an idiot or what, but it was staying at a steady sort of 60-ish frames per second, but then it would just lag spike, and it would go down to 10, 12, and then back up again. Then I downloaded Optifine quickly, and it was running at 200 frames per second, just square, just like that.
Exactly, and Optifine is one of those ones where it's like a necessity. You can't really play it without it. And this is the point, is that you need to draw the line between just silly extra things and things that genuinely help it. Why have, Mojang, why have they not sort of, they must know. They're surely not so blind that they don't know that every single person pretty much gets this mod in. At that point, they should say, hey, we're going to buy your mod and we're going to give you, I don't know, however much for it, 1,000, blah, 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 we're going to take your mod and we're going to build it into the game so that it makes our game better. That's what they should be doing. And that's what World of Warcraft did. They had like I say, there was mods that had been around for ages and ages that, anybody who played WoW seriously it was a requirement. There was a lot of guilds and stuff which would be like, unless you have this mod, we're not interested in you. It was a requirement. And it took them so long to kind of get their head around this, that everybody was using these mods. And at what point, this is the point, it's like everyone else is using it. And then they kind of go, oh, yeah, maybe actually if we take that, because everyone's using it already, and build it into the game, maybe that would be a good thing to do. Yeah, maybe it would, guys. Maybe it would be a good thing to do. And I think that's
a good example of that is, with Minecraft, it's become huge because of YouTube, basically. You've got, the likes of, whoever, Yogscast and C Nanas, is that his name?
Yeah, I don't
I
like
think
him.
he played it at some point. Well,
I know people regard him as like this YouTube god, but I don't like him, so whatever.
I've never really watched his videos, but I think he did Minecraft. I might be wrong there, but anyway, don't quote me on that. But because it's become so huge on YouTube, you thought that they would somewhat help the video makers a bit easy on themselves. Like with me, I don't know whether anybody has noticed, but Minecraft doesn't have a resolution setting. It just full screens itself to whatever you're playing at. Whereas I like to record in 720p or 720i, whatever it is. So I actually had to download a mod for it that sizes it to 1280 by 720. Otherwise, all of my videos would have black bars by the side of it. They've got a full screen option now, but they don't have the option to actually size it to a certain size, so you can just record seamlessly. Like, you actually have to go out your way to sort it out. Whereas I think they should have, put in something.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to do. Actually, I didn't think of it in that respect, but it would be a good thing to do. I know that with what I use, because obviously I run on a Mac, so I've got two options with ScreenFlow or Snaps Pro X. I've been using Snaps Pro actually because it's a bit better. It's kind of Snaps Pro is better than ScreenFlow. Actually, I know there's a lot of you guys that run Mac and kind of do this stuff, so I'll perhaps do a comparison between the two about it. But Snaps Pro basically, it's like more raw. It's very, very basic in terms of its kind of what you actually see on screen. It's literally like 1990s Mac style boxes. It's like really quite basic. It feels very much like old style stuff like Quark and things. It's but but the best thing about it is that it runs with literally no lag whatsoever. When it's running, it does not affect your systems, and that's been a big issue with Macs for ages in terms of finding. Well, it's not an issue with Macs; it's an issue with the software for them, which is that most sort of screen capture software seems to lag the games really badly, and it's very, very irritating because it gets captured. Snaps Pro, because it's incredibly basic in what it does, you don't get any of that, so it literally just records and you don't have any lag at all, which is so good. It's frame rate lag really, not actual lag. Anyway, but the best thing about that is that when you set up your window, you can dictate to it how big of a screen it captures. So you could put it down to the 720 resolution and then just size your window to fit within the frame that it's capturing. So that's quite a good thing. Anyway.
Yeah, so I'm not very tech savvy. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people saying, "Why don't you just do it like this?" But with me, I just set it to a resolution, then it records at that resolution, and my render program renders it at that resolution. I don't want to have to sort of faff with settings because I'm not that way inclined. I'm really not that tech savvy. I just sort of have the game and want to make videos of it, and that's it.
Okay, so and one other interesting thing that I've read this week about sort of PS4, we talked a little bit on a show that I recorded with you tonight about, by the way guys, if you haven't seen, go to my Looting Gaming channel, which I'll link here, and I'm going to have a show with Heartless coming up, which is going to be running regularly. So if you've enjoyed our kind of rambly discussion up to this point, then you may want to check that out as well, but if not, then check it out anyway. So there was like a leaked kind of footage of basically a PS4 controller, but people know what this thing looks like now. It looks quite nice actually. The PS4 controller, it's a bit more ergonomic than the current controller.
Well, you've got the picture of it. Can I see?
Yeah. I'll link it across to you. And but what they're talking about in this article is basically a possible PS4 dev kit, and it's showing it how it's hooked up, etc., etc. You can see the controller there. You see. The control sticks right now, they kind of have a completely rounded off top, but these ones are kind of inverted almost, so I can imagine you to get a bit more grip when you're sort of moving them and stuff. Also, that kind of little screen that runs across the PS4 controller is supposed to be a kind of touchpad. Now, they were like, well, what could you do with that? I actually think you could do quite a lot with a little touchpad on there in terms of movement and what you would do with it. But anyway, but what this actually got me thinking of was, people might not remember, because it was a long time ago, when the PS1 came out, there was the standard PS1 model, which was however much money, it was like a couple of £100, but for more money, I think like £600 to £800, you could buy a PS Net Euros. Do you remember that?
I don't, but carry on.
What the Net Euros was it was basically like a dev kit, But for people, amateurs at home who understood a little bit about how to do coding and so on, it wasn't like it wasn't so basic that everyone could use it. But it was kind of a very early sort of, it was a nod towards kind of modding and stuff. But people could actually make their own games and build them to release on PlayStation. Now, obviously, back then they didn't have the capability to kind of share stuff around and create their own titles. But that would you be able to do that so easily now. What it used to be was that people would make their own games. The only way they could release them, I remember I've actually still got the disc, unbelievably, and it was like you remember like Official PlayStation Magazine. They released a load of they would always come out every week. Do you remember like demo discs? Remember demo discs?
Oh yeah.
I bet you there's people watching this who won't remember demo discs. What it would be, guys, was that when the sort of PlayStation, the early consoles came out, not early consoles, but sort of medium range. What would you classify the PlayStation 1 as? I don't know. It's not next. I don't know. Medium range, I'll say, because the first consoles were sort of Mega Drive, SNES, etc., and then go up one step to the PlayStation and so on. But demo discs were basically your demos. It's, as it sounds, you get like a magazine would give you a disc, and on it would be sort of 5 or 6 demos of games that were upcoming, and it would just give you a chance to try out games. I'll tell you one thing. I think this is slightly off topic, but it kind of connects to what we've been talking about before on our other video that we've made. We were talking on the video of our episode, guys, we were talking about the whole Xbox issue and how you won't be able to play games secondhand or even rent them anymore because of the the stuff that they're implementing there. However, you were saying that it's kind of annoying that you wouldn't be able to like demo games, you wouldn't be able to try them out anymore. Why don't like PlayStation stores, I mean, you do have demos that you can download, but they're not so widespread, are they? It tends to be only like a few titles. It's not like everything. I think everything should have like like a sort of 5-minute section of the game that you can just try out or something that's available to download.
I swear it used to.
Yeah,
it used to get a lot, like especially on, like you said, on the older systems. I mean, when I what was it, 1994 when the PS1 came out or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Something 1995 or something like that. But like I remember that demo disc, it had Pandemonium 2, Cooler World, and like some really old games on it, and it was the only game I had for it for like ages until we could afford to get another one.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just need to do that. They need to let you try before you buy. There's a reason they have that saying.
I think people don't mind spending out a lot on games as long as they know that they're actually spending money on something that's worthwhile getting. I think that's definitely resonated with kind of what I've seen on some of my videos that I posted this week, specifically the GTA one, where I was asking people, do they mind waiting for a game? And, the resounding almost 99% of people coming back were going, we don't mind waiting at all, provided the quality of the game is there. And I think it goes along with the purchasing as well. People don't mind paying out for a game so long as it's worth paying out for. And I think you need to be sure of what you're going to buy. If you're going to spend £50 on something, I mean 40, 50, 30, whatever, but if you're going to spend a bit of chunk of money on something, you want to be make sure it's worthwhile actually buying, and you can't do that unless you've really tried it, or unless you're so confident in the developer and you've got a bit of experience in them. But I really don't understand why there aren't more demos available. Like, do
you know what else is ridiculous?
What?
The fact that some games that they can be out for a month or whatever, and then they release the demo ages afterwards. I don't understand why they do that.
Well, I guess they figure that they need like a hook to drag people in who haven't purchased yet. But I see where you're coming from. You would think that it wouldn't make a lot of odds when they released it. They may as well release it.
No, all of the day one purchases, for instance. I mean, I know they'll probably get it anyway, but wouldn't it be nice to know that you're not doing what I did with Assassin's Creed 3, for instance, where you're like, oh, this is going to be epic, and then it turns out that it's a complete flop and you hate it.
Exactly. I mean, for example, me with Medal of Honor. Now, when Medal of Honor was upcoming and everyone's going, Medal of Honor is going to be awesome, blah, blah, blah. And, I just really didn't feel confident that it would be, to the point that I didn't purchase it. Turns out I was 100% correct. But, it would have been nice to have had... Now, I know people are going to say the distinction here that there was a beta available, but a beta is not like a universal thing always. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. For example, Killzone 3 They did that. They had like an open beta, and you can just download it and play it. But, you know, the important thing to remember is that not all games do this. It's quite a small percentage of games do it, and it's not really the kind of what we're talking about here, because there's a lot of single-player games, for example, that you wouldn't have a beta for a single-player game necessarily in the same sense that you would with more multiplayer, you know, focused games. But, yeah, I really don't see where they are. But where this was going was that... you know, with that kind of sharing of stuff. Now, what would be really cool, they've said that with the PS4, it's going to be much more kind of, you know, developer friendly and so on and so on. Now, you know, for sure that, you know, modern games are going to be more complicated and so on. But however, actually, this ties in quite well with another thing that I was reading. Let me just find the article. But I really like the idea of them producing some kind of system that would allow people to create basic games. They don't have to be crazily complicated, you know. Sometimes simplicity creates the best games. And I would love the opportunity to, you know, have some kind of system which would allow you to make that kind of stuff. And the Net Euros allowed that. It allowed people to make basic games, and some of them were actually not too bad.
It is easily done. I mean, have you played... Oh, well, I suppose you wouldn't have, because you ain't got it. Trials HD and Trials Evolution. They're only on Xbox, aren't they?
Yeah, I think possibly.
Yeah, those two games, like, you should see some of the things that they do. Like, look it up on YouTube sometimes, because you know, it's a motorbike game where basically you steer your bloke leaning back, leaning forward, and you go over a track. But people have, you know, they've put this development mode into the game where people can make games that are completely unrelated, you know, like ones where you are a rocket and you're flying into somewhere, you're a ball and you're rolling over an obstacle course and stuff like this. It's just like, and they've made like iterations of Slender and Amnesia on there and stuff. And, you know, if they can do that, why can't they do what you said and put a development program into just a system like that?
Absolutely, I totally agree. You know, there's so many little bits and pieces like this, like changes that need to happen to, I think, just gaming in general to make it kind of more productive and so on. I can't find the exact quote, but I know it's in here. Oh, here we are. Yeah, this was actually it. What it is, it's about the Unreal Engine 4. Which is obviously upcoming, and it's going to be for next-gen systems. So obviously we've been running with Unreal Engines for a while throughout a lot of games, but the Unreal Engine 4 is obviously one that they're working on. And there's a huge article in my Edge this month about this, talking about it. But one thing that's really interesting was that they were talking about the simplicity of the system and the kind of the actual software itself. Now, I don't know what it's priced at. I would imagine it's quite expensive, but probably not expensive in the scale of creating your own kind of game, etc. But one of the lead guys for creating the Unreal Engine, they've got a quote here of him saying, "One artist working for 6 months can build a game with Unreal Engine 4 without programming anything." And that's because of the way they've developed their software. So, you know, I think it's kind of a good move to sort of move in that direction, where people who don't have necessarily this very detailed tech knowledge can be supported by software. So it allows you to kind of do basic functions, to build basic things, and those kind of, you know, bits and pieces are in place. You can do the more kind of creative design stuff, and then, you know, the software itself will handle that kind of thing. I think that'd be a really exciting direction to go in. Even if you made an ultimately simplistic game like a platformer or something like that, or a little side-scrolling shooter or something like that. Think about how simple side-scrolling shooters are. It's basically some little, you know, sprite just moving in 4 directions and the screen scrolling along. You couldn't get more simple, but they're absolutely 100% really, really enjoyable to play those games. And to be able to kind of theme and develop your idea, and then if it does well, maybe you'll actually get some support. People could do Kickstarters, blah, blah, blah. You know, you might actually be able to develop it in a certain way. And with the whole sort of online network game sharing system that we have right now, like the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live, it would be so great that you could create a title yourself and then just post it up. Maybe, for example, I mean, how would it be different to creating apps like people do now? You know, people just create apps and submit them. People create games and apps and submit them to Apple, and then they go, okay, your thing's fine, and it's live and it's ready to go, and people can buy it. Why don't they start doing that with games? I mean, just look at how people create mods. Are you telling me that a couple of people, if they had the right development kit available, couldn't just get together and make stuff. Of course,
Well, it's always been brilliant like this. It's like the Valve engine that created things like Left 4 Dead, as I've said, and it also created Gary's mod that started off as a mod where you could just guff about and have a laugh. And that's something that's gone on sale. There's the Unreal Development Kit has always been brilliant, in my opinion. I played a really good mod for the Unreal Development Kit a while ago. It's Silent Hill 2.2, and it's called Sanatorium. And he basically made a whole new stretch of Silent Hill 2 with all the characters and everything in it, like with updated graphics and all this. And I really enjoyed that. Like I'd say that you should go and have a go at that if you've got a PC good enough. And what's the other one I was thinking of? The Half-Life 1 engine as well. That spawned Cry of Fear, and that's got its problems, sure. But, considering you've made a whole new game with, updated graphics and everything just from this really old engine is something, that they should bring out.
I think it would be another strong thing. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of kind of creativity out there for people. There's a lot that people kind of want to make and do, and I'm sure people have got infinite ideas about what they could make. They just need like the tools to do it, and it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity that the game companies have not, Sony, Microsoft, whatever, Nintendo, I suppose, I always forget about Nintendo now. That's funny, isn't it? I never think of Nintendo in any sense anymore. I always
Nintendo.
Like Sony, oh yeah, Nintendo. Yeah, I forgot about you
Sega.
guys. I forgot about Nintendo after you double-crossed us and you bastards. And like, I feel let's go off to talk about that very briefly now. Do you feel betrayed by Nintendo the way that I do?
In what way do you feel betrayed?
I always really liked Nintendo. They always produced really amazing games, and they always had really excellent, great value for money consoles. The SNES and the N64, and then the GameCube. The GameCube was one of my favourite consoles ever. In fact, I think I said when I think I got asked this on a Q&A for one of my sort of subscriber not benchmark, what's it? Anyway, I got to a certain amount of subscribers, that's what I'm saying. And so it was on one of my Q&A, and people said, like, what's your favourite system or something, your favourite console system? And I think I said, like, it wasn't any of PlayStations, it was a GameCube. And the reason was, at the time, you could have like 4-player, the game quality was really fantastic. The price of the thing, it was like 65 quid or something for like the whole, I remember clearly, it was like 65, 70 pound for the whole system. It was ridiculous. And that wasn't like, it wasn't so long ago that you're like, looting, but that would be like 200 pounds nowadays. No. I'm not that old. It was just like, it was really ridiculously cheap, the GameCube when it came out. And yet, it was just, they had a handle on the back so you could carry it around to your friend's house and everything. It was ridiculous. It was such a fantastically simple plug-and-play system. And what were we talking about? I forgot what
you was betrayed.
Oh, that's right, yeah, Nintendo. And, so you went from that, right, I loved, and all the games for the GameCube, there were so many fantastic games for it. I could just list you,
I know, I love the GameCube.
Yeah, it really is, and I've still got mine, and I refuse.
I've got two.
Yeah, exactly, I've got mine. And one thing that I loved about
for £1.
One thing I will say was that when they brought the first Wii out, I was very impressed that they put backwards compatibility into that. So they bothered to put like ports for GameCube controllers in and so on and so on. However, the thing that really screwed me over was that they just gave up on proper gamers, basically. They just went totally in the other direction, and it's come back to haunt them, because now they've realized that the people who they tried to focus on, the kind of casual non-gamer market, as you might say, they actually kind of forgot that casual non-gamers get bored of games pretty quickly, and that they'll play it for like an afternoon and then they'll turn it off. They don't sit and play games through and through and then buy another title and play it through and through. They'll play a bit and then they won't. Now, I'm not, it's a bit of a generalization. I know that not everyone who owns a Wii will play it in that way. I'm sure there's some people that really enjoy it and play it all the time. But I think it's as a system, it was driven much more towards the whole kind of casual non-gamer who just kind of will play a bit. Now it is fun, I won't lie. When they first came out, I played them. In fact, my brother, even for Christmas, he didn't want he didn't want like the whole Wii U stuff, because they're not like hardcore gamers, my brother and that, and so they just wanted a normal Wii. They wanted to get all the Wii Fit and blah blah blah, and we had it out this Christmas, and it was a lot of fun. We all, as a family, we were having a bit of a mess around, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fun. I'd forgotten how much fun it is. But then of course you forget that you're not always in a situation where you've got a load of people around your house all the time, and that's where it kind of falls down. On TV you always
fun playing Mario Kart by yourself.
No, absolutely not. And I know you can go online and blah blah blah, but I feel like they just really did just. And the other issue that I had with the Wii when it came out was that they didn't bring out enough. It didn't have enough great titles with release and stuff.
Nope.
Now they did bring out, like, obviously Mario Galaxy, which I have and which I played, and it's incredibly fun. But you could count on one hand the number of titles that you would class as being really good games to own for the Wii, and it just kind of pissed me off. I was just like, you guys have gone from being one of the most respected leading game developers to I don't know. I just feel like they left proper gamers behind, and I think they're trying to claw it back.
Timeline.
Yeah, go on.
Right, we got the Wii, but it was after it had been out for a while, and there was a good few titles that I wanted to get on it that I looked really interesting, like Calling, which I don't think was actually available to buy in the UK, so I just bought it elsewhere, like off eBay or something. That was a good horror game. I bought that Due on the Grudge, which was a disappointment but scary for a little while. I bought, Resident Evil Archives, basically Resident Evil 1 that was on the GameCube that they just sort of repackaged and put it on the Wii. Yeah. And Resident Evil 4 for the Wii, which I had a lot of fun with all of those. But then it got to the stage where it was like, what next? You've got all these party games, but I'm not really a sort of sociable, have everybody round party game kind of person. There's only so many times you can play Wii bowling and get a 10 strike in a row and just not give a crap anymore because you know how to do it, you know how to throw it and all that. But like, the thing that killed it for me is when they got the whole Wii Shop channel thing. And it was like, get all these really cool old games for this, and this. And I was like, okay, why not? So I bought an old Super Mario game, which I had quite a lot of fun with. And I had Super Mario 2, which I had quite a lot of fun with. But then I also bought the original Donkey Kong, like the one where it's Donkey Kong throwing barrels at what was then just Jumpman or whatever.
Yeah.
And I played, I think it was $5 I paid for it. And it was jump up a couple of times, get to the top, save the princess, and the game was over right there. Like it literally was 10 minutes of gameplay for a $5, and I was like, what is this? But it turns out it was actually correct. Like it was 10 minutes of gameplay, and
you forget how simplistic. Yeah, but that game was it was originally just a little handheld, wasn't it? It wasn't like
it was. And I remembered playing it on like the Game Boy or wherever I played it.
It wasn't. It was a standalone thing. It came out as. Do you remember the film K9 and Steve Belushi? And
I do. Yeah.
And is it Steve? Is that what? I
think it's Steve Belushi.
Yeah.
Jim Belushi, or is that the one that died?
I don't know. I actually, hold on, I need to look this up, otherwise I'm going to be saying it wrong. But anyway, in that film, he has that game, and it's literally like a little. It looks like a kind of calculator size. It's just like a little handheld thing. It is not Steve. It's James Belushi. Yeah,
James.
Yeah.
Well, so
Jim. I think I got
it right.
I think it's just it's Wikipedia there stating his full name or whatever. Anyway, so it's a handheld jobby, but
Well, I just thought, because I played the original Donkey Kong on my Game Boy, and I remember it distinctly because I was playing it in a car on the way to go to the hospital for something completely unrelated to me, and because I was playing it so long and for such a long time staring at the screen, I ended up throwing up in the car park at the hospital. But that's a completely unrelated story to this. But and I remember that I loved it so much. But so I thought, oh yeah, buying it and playing it on my TV, how cool will that be? But then it was like, the price was misleading. That's what threw me off, because
really?
it was a $5, so I figured it was a full game, not 10 minutes, and that was just when I was like, right, Wii's going in the cupboard, and that's where it's been from now on.
One thing that I'll say that I do like about them is they're not scared to, sort of try and innovate. They're trying out different things. So, for example, the Wii U, despite all its
Wii U, I like that thing.
Well, I have to say there are some kind of fairly big flaws with the system itself in terms of the hardware, but from a kind of innovation point of view, really clever sort of thing to do. Now, they were going, oh, but you'd have limited uses and blah, blah. Well, I think each game would have some kind of sort of sensibility that you could do with the Wii U. You could have, for example, on that gamepad there, if you think about any kind of open world game like Skyrim or Fallout,
map.
Or you could have a map or an interactive system where you organise everything on your lap there. It just saves you bringing up the menu ever. And it's these kind of small things that actually make big differences in game. That kind of, it saves you the whole having to ever go into a menu, and that in itself is quite a nice thing. Think about, for example, other games like survival horror games always require you to go inventory always require, if you can do that live on the fly while you're moving, or perhaps even in combat you need to quickly change out, grab something, slide it, whatever, there's a whole sort of dynamic there. I mean, for example, if they want to make it sort of intuitive rather than just clicking, you could make it so you have to flick your thing, whatever, to kind of bring it up or whatever. Regardless, there is like a very clever, very, as I say, innovative sort of aspect to what they're trying to do there. And also, I think you've got to have a bit of bottle to come out and say,
try this new stuff.
Because they're taking a risk, and the other sort of systems have not been taking so much of a risk up to the point where they are now. So I think it's kind of interesting, and I think it does sort of it does kind of connect and lie within and the kind of the market that they've gone towards. One thing that I will say as well is that I know that Nintendo kind of actively sort of admitted, really, whether in so many words, but they pretty much kind of said that they realised that they kind of had neglected the sort of proper gamer market, etc., and that they were trying to sort of make an effort to kind of go back in the direction that they'd sort of come from. And I think you've got to say sort of fair play for that. They kind of, they admitted that they kind of underestimated how important that market was. And whilst I would say I think it's pretty obvious that it's a very, very important thing and that you can't just forget about it, I wonder whether in some ways it's going to be, I mean, it's your classic kind of retail shop thing, isn't it, where I can't remember the exact phrase. What is it? It's like, it's very easy to kind of keep a customer, but it's very difficult to get one to come back once you've lost them, or something along those lines, isn't it? And it kind of really is that point, is once you lose people, it's very, very difficult to convince them to come back. And I know that's kind of how I feel, which is that I always loved Nintendo, I always loved what they did, but now I do feel kind of alienated by them. And there's so many other things going on. I'm probably going to be looking at getting some kind of PC system later this year. I'll be getting another PlayStation. Where does Nintendo fit into it now for me? They'd have to make some radically amazing system to actually convince me to go back to it. And I don't see that happening. I think they've moved in a different direction. They're going to have to sort of, they're going to have to lump it, really,
Yeah, I won't. I mean, I said that I liked it. I don't have one. I've seen it, and I think if that controller thing they've got with that screen on it, if it works anything like a tablet, I think it could be really good. Because, for instance, in Resident Evil 5, the interface on it, the inventory screen, it was live. So if you opened your inventory, you could get attacked, and that because it was all moving, it was all in game. Whereas if you had that, you could just glance down at what you don't want, drag and throw it, and it could, it's gone. Or like you could just switch your gun like that. You wouldn't have that sort of freeze in place, I'm doing my inventory problem. You would just, or like Alone in the Dark as well, where you look down and you've got all the stuff in your coat. Now you could just look down and it could just all be there in your coat. Like, you wouldn't have to stop. You could still be walking or like needlessly driving miles off into the distance. I think it's good, but and with Zombie U, I don't know where the camera is. Is that in the controller? What? Because it makes you turn into a zombie if you die or something. But
something like that. I don't know.
It's clever and that, but like you said, it's gonna. it's going to take a lot for me to go back to them, because after having brilliant stuff like the N64, like I spent ages with one of my old friends that I don't see anymore because he's moved to Wales. Like he introduced me to GoldenEye, and I played that for donkey's years with them lot. And then the GameCube, I played all the Resident Evil, 1, 2, 3 on that. And I played a bit of Eternal Darkness, but because I was sort of younger, I got scared and turned it off. But I want to go back to that, and to go from that to the Wii, where it was marketed as beach party, hit a friggin' volleyball and stuff like that. They need to do something radical to get me to come back, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the thing with the Wii was as well is I kind of people are always standing up doing the whole motion of kind of what they have to do, and as someone who again, I don't want to generalize, but people that are maybe not sort of into games or even technology in a big way would probably imagine that they actually had to do that in order to kind of make it work, that it somehow knew what you were doing, and that if you didn't do it that way it wouldn't work.
Whereas in real life you just sit in a chair and do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I quickly realised that all you had to do it was literally just sit there and just shake the controller back and forth, and it totally would work. So I was just sitting there in my chair, and I was just like, and throw the ball, and all I've done is literally just flick my wrist forward like an inch, and that's all it's done. So again, that kind of, as soon as I realised that that's all it required, it kind of destroyed the mystique for me, and I was kind of like, I was being a bit of my own killjoy in many ways, but it did kind of kill it for me a little bit. It took the specialness away.
What's funny is this is going to take away any kind of inclination that I might have some manliness in my life, but I went to my niece's house, and she has a Kinect, and we played Just Dance on it just because whatever. So I did a really extremely camp dance of Take On Me, as Take On Me, really passionate and all this. And I was really into it, and it made me knackered because the Kinect follows your movements exactly, and you're flying your arms all over the place. If you do it wrong, it's like, oi. But then I went round one of my sister's house, and she's got a Wii, and we played Just Dance on that, and I did exactly the same dance, but just stood there and waved the remote, because you don't have to move your whole body to make the Wii remote say that you're dancing. So I just stood there and shook the remote, and it was like, perfect, you got it. And I'm just like, yeah, I am, friggin' brilliant. Whereas in the other place I got good and average and your pants.
Surprisingly enough, I never got into the whole what the hell is the game even called? The Guitar Hero,
Guitar Hero.
And all that sort of stuff. Surprisingly, never was a big sort of appeal for me. But I went around one of my friend's houses, and she had it, and she was like, "Come on, David, you love games, you'll really enjoy it." And I was kind of like, "Okay, I'll give it a go." And again, I just played it in a really kind of sort of gamery way. I was kind of like, so you click the buttons, and she was doing the whole kind of playing it as a guitar, and I was just like, okay, it's red, green, blue, get down, blue, and I was just doing it in a really kind of sort of unenthusiastic technical way, where I literally was just doing it in I did really well, even though it was my first time. I can't remember what I did, very high on the sort of score, but again, I was literally just going click, 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 and I wasn't really sort of feeling it so much. And I guess in some ways that comes back to the whole kind of imagination thing. There's a lot of games like that where you could just play them really technically, but I don't know how fun
South Park.
The guitar,
where he's like, this guy's the best Guitar Hero player ever, and then he goes, well, go on and show me something, and then he just goes, and he's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's always that. Yeah, that's really fantastic.
What's the other thing I was thinking of? Oh, it was sickening. I watched a video on YouTube of this Wii Airband or something like that, and you do because what was it, or was it Kinect? I can't remember. But these people were like, now you can play your favorite tunes in Wii Airband, and these people were just basically air guitaring and air saxophoning and stuff, just looking like absolute lemons. Completely and utterly, but they was like, this is the best game ever, and they're like, and it was really sort of 8-bit weird music as well, and I was like, is this all we can do to try and compete with Guitar Hero and all that? It was hilarious.
I'll tell you something else that comes to my mind with Nintendo and irritating me is their adverts. because when they've got like Louise Redknapp and all the rest of it, and they're all sitting around like playing their sort of games together, and they got like the little kids and they got the granddads, and it's like, how many grandparents do you know that play Mario Kart and like kick their children's ass at it or whatever, seriously. And it's just like when they're all sitting around I can't imagine Harry Redknapp sitting down and going like, all right, anybody for the Wii, like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't see it. And it's just like they went, who was it? It was like some actresses and stuff, and they always get like I don't know, and they always get like Girls Aloud and all these kind of people, and like you just see them and you think, oh, shut up, they're not playing games, they've never played a game in their life, they're not going to be sitting around all night, like, they got like, what is it, five sort of middle 20-something pop stars all sitting around playing games. You're like, shut up, they're out they're out pissed off their ass, aren't they?
They are, yeah. There was another advert that I saw, I think it was One Direction or one of those boy bands, and what was they playing? I can't remember what they was playing, but there was
Mario Party
sitting, yeah, and they was going, my favourite part is that you can customise the colour of your hat, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like, how much are they paying you?
I shouldn't have taken a drink right then, I think. But seriously, no, and all those. So again, it kind of, to me, it puts a big dent in their kind of credibility as advert. Talking about adverts, and seeing as this is like a video today where we don't have to talk about games, have you seen the new McDonald's advert?
Oh God, what one?
Have you seen the one where it's she's asking if he wants his like new stepdad to move in with him? Have you seen that one?
I don't know. Refresh my memory. It sounds familiar, but I could be wrong because it sounds like every BT advert from the last 20 years.
It's literally like it's got to be like there can't be any advert worse than it for the rest of this year. Seriously, it's got to be the worst thing ever. It starts off and it's like this little lad and he's playing football or whatever, and his mum comes over and it's this obviously the boyfriend or whatever. And she's like, oh, I'm thinking of asking Dave if he moves in with us. And the lad's obviously like not happy about this. He's like, oh, well, all right, And then it goes on, and basically the boyfriend or stepdad, whatever, he's constantly trying to sort of build bridges, and he's like, do you want to do this? And the lad's just like, no, you're right. He doesn't, he's not interested at all. And it goes on and on. And then basically the dad's like, she's gone out, he's looking for something in the fridge, there's no food, and he's like, oh, have to be McDonald's then, or he says Mackie D's or whatever, and and the lad's like, oh, all right, and off they go to McDonald's, and then they have like a bit of bonding over their double cheeseburger or whatever.
Really?
Like this. Yeah, and he's like, oh, and they have like a bit of a moment because they're having McDonald's together, and then it comes out, it's outside, and then like you get the little tagline come up, and it's like, McDonald's, we all have it in common, or something like that. At that point, when I was watching it for the first time, I just stood up in my chair and I was like, shut up. I think I swore at the TV quite loudly as well, because I was like, this is stupid. It's like the stupidest thing ever.
That's the worst.
It's so bad. It's like
oh man, like what?
You have to go watch it after this. It's literally the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing ever. It's like
blooming McDonald's. Like, if it's like, is that what you're going to give my mum? Like, are you going to give her a wedding ring that's like made out of Haribo or something?
It's like, have you had a traumatizing family experience? Well, don't worry, just go to McDonald's. It'll all be cool.
McDonald's.
Just like,
it doesn't matter that your parents have broken up and they hate each other anymore.
Exactly. It's just like, it's like, oh, he don't care about his dad anymore because this guy's taking him to McDonald's. So it's just like, it's the worst thing ever. It's just like, it just goes in. I should do like a whole series about adverts that I hate, because there's just a litany of them. Actually, it just goes on and on. The hilariously sexist ones are always the Asda at Christmas. Did you see that one?
I did not.
With the mum, and she's like doing everything. And
oh yeah, Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without mum or something.
Yeah, and she's just
Is that the one?
And she's just like doing everything. She's going out doing the shopping, she's organising all the presents, she's cooking, she's doing it, she's dishing it up, laying on the table. And when she's finished like doing all the stuff, like she doesn't even have a proper chair at the table. She has to sit on like the poof, like on the corner of the table at Christmas, because mum's like, she's just like the worker bee. She doesn't, it's just like, it's outrageous. Like, does she not have anyone else in her family to help? And I don't like it for two reasons, for that Asda advert. One, they're kind of really degrading to women, because it's basically like, yeah, you have to just do everything because that's your lot in life. And second of all, it's kind of insulting to everybody else, because they're going, yeah, actually you're not good enough to do this stuff because only the mother knows best. And
yeah,
it's
exactly.
kind of like,
I'm going to be noisy in my chair. Hold on. Yeah. So
it's just like
exactly what you're talking
insult.
about.
Yeah, it's just like insulting everyone all around. But the Boots ones as well. My God, they got under my skin for years. I'm glad they finally finished those. The Christmas Boots adverts where the men are always just like, "Oh, you're too stupid to know what to buy, so we'll just have to let the women do it." And it's just kind of like, what? It's just they're trying to make out like the guys obviously would care that, you know, they're not clever enough to buy it. But actually, it's like, oh, what, you're going to do all the Christmas shopping? Okay, I'll just, I'll stay at home, shall I? It's totally stupid.
Do you know what else is bad about those Christmas adverts? Every Christmas advert is showing like everybody's got the whole family around. There's like 30 people around the table having dinners and all this. And I'm thinking, this is a bit of a like happy mood killer and all that. But the suicide rate at Christmas is the highest anywhere, and they're showing like people with like loads of family round all over the TV. Like, this is your Christmas.
Yeah.
This is what everybody's Christmas is.
I never
there
thought
could
of
be
that.
a man alone with a dog, and he's going to kill himself because he's like, I ain't got nobody. Or an old man. Like
It's really true, and I'd never thought of that.
There was one advert, I think it was Tesco, where it was just a man, a woman, and two kids just having a quiet little family dinner. And I was thinking, like, that's a good one. Why didn't they have like, an old man with his dog and like a picture of his wife on the mantelpiece with a little bit of Christmas tinsel or something?
I think
something like that.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think the thing is, I'd never thought of it like that actually. That it kind of really, really would rub it in. You're on your own. The last thing you want to see is like everyone having like a super perfect Christmas, And the thing to remember as well is like with these adverts, they're kind of, you always have to kind of take it with a pinch of salt. That it's kind of like a gloss finish to what they're trying to do. So they're trying to show you your typical kind of like, what is it? What's that film called that they put on? It's like A Wonderful Life or whatever.
It's
like,
a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, it's all that kind of stuff where they're trying to show the perfect classic idea of Christmas. So it's more about the idea, but I definitely take the point, and I think that I think that people aren't stupid enough. This is another thing that bugs me, is that often with these adverts, they really must kind of think that people are stupid to kind of buy into it. I sometimes beggars belief that some of these things will even get put on TV, but I think with that one, it's kind of like they should actually kind of understand that, this is not how it is, and it's very nice to show. I think it would be fine if they kind of cheesed it up a little bit, like if they were like, it's Christmas time, and they showed like a very, very stereotypical kind of Christmas with all the
everybody's wearing Christmas hats and wearing the stupid jumpers.
So it's kind of like, it's just silly, and they're kind of trying to show a thing. But when they do it in a more kind of like, this is how it is, it's kind of like, and they make you feel like if that's not how your Christmas is, then you're sort of screwing up. I think it's really not right. I did like actually the Tesco ones this year, for all the crap Tesco have taken recently, which I've very much enjoyed bombing their Twitter with and making stupid comments about horses and stuff. Their Christmas adverts I thought were pretty on par actually. They're pretty good because they did like sort of they did a lot of different situations, different families, different people, different age ranges, and real different situations. So I felt like it kind of really appealed to everyone, and they were quite sort of bullet point-ish as well, which I think is, a lot of Christmas adverts, they tend to make these long sort of quite labour the point, which is kind of how I do when I'm doing commentaries actually. But the Tesco ones were much more kind of like bullet point, and they were like, dun 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 dun.
Was the other advert by them the one where like everybody puts on their hat and then there's one kid that doesn't, and then they're all going hat hat hat? Was that them as well?
Yeah, possibly was. I'm not sure.
It's like,
that's always me
without
the
fact
hat.
that they had these really crappy crackers and like really rubbish hats and stuff. Whereas if you saw an advert somewhere else, like M&S, get our hats that are made out of solid gold and all this. Like if you can't afford that, you get yours from a like 12-pack at a pound shop, then you just feel inferior. I hate those kind of adverts.
What do you think as well about like everybody seems to get like these perfect trees now, like Christmas? This is going to be a whole subsection to this video now. When we finish talking about games, we're going to talk about Christmas. What do you? No, it's good.
Good time of year.
Yeah, we'll finish up soon. But what do you think about like all these perfect trees like people have now? It's always like white lights, perfectly coordinated baubles, all this kind of stuff. It has to look like, it's got to be designer and fit in with your house.
Ours has always been. I've always decorated the tree at our house. I didn't do it this year because I had to work. Unfortunately, I didn't really have the time. But every year, like we've had to get rid of the tree now because it broke in half. Unfortunately, in the middle of it. Like luckily, the day after Christmas, it broke in half. But like we've had this tree for so long, and it's tatty as hell. It's one of those ones you have to put together every single time, so it takes hours to put up. But every year it's different, and that's what I like about it. It's not just the same. Whereas I went round somebody's house a couple of days after Christmas. They got this pristine white tree. I don't know what that's all about. It was a white tree, artificial obviously, and strewn with all kinds of stuff that was already built onto it, so you just pull it out of the box, put it up, and it's done. Whereas,
What?
It's kind of cack. But then you've also got ones that are they're real trees, and they don't drop needles, even though they do, because I put my glass of Coke underneath that tree and I drunk about 7 pine needles.
They don't look like Christmas trees, those new ones. They look
you know
weird.
what else I hate? Those bloody blue lights as well. Like only a few years ago they've started to bring out those the color blue light that you can't focus your eyes on. Your eyes will not focus when you look at that color blue.
It's like that. It's that kind of cold. It's like car underlighting blue, isn't it?
I hate that blue light.
They also have had like sort of strobing tree lights now, where you get kind of all different sorts of light patterns and stuff that you can do. But I mean, our tree, like my family's tree, we always have like it's coloured lights, not white.
Yep.
Coloured lights, and we have the same baubles and stuff. Like, unless they break, we have the same sort of. But we don't have like. This is the thing. Although we have the same stuff every year in terms of like what it is, because we keep all the stuff, so we don't buy new stuff, we just use the same ones every year because it's kind of traditional. That's what I always think. I mean, to me, Christmas is about like tradition and family. It's about like sort of going back. So therefore, buying loads of new stuff every year to me kind of defeats the whole purpose of it, because then you don't. It's me putting the stuff up for the tree. You get it all out and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this stuff from when I was little, and you really identify with it all. It's all about like creating memories and stuff. So buying new stuff, you don't. You forget about it because it's gone.
I love it because our tree has been so ghetto, because it started off as a really sort of nicest tree, and over the years it's gone through a lot. There was a stage where right in the middle of the day we was just all sitting there, and then the tree just completely broke in half for no reason. It just went and then for the rest of the Christmas it was a bit wonky, because my dad, being the sort of the guy that he is, he's like, no, it'll be all right, and he just put a broomstick down the bit in the middle and then like plonked it on and done a bit of the old hot knife treatment and soldered it back together. And but every year it's sort of got more and more tatty, but it's we've got our stuff on there. We've got the red bows that we've had forever. We've got the same baubles. There was even some baubles that, how if you've got the back of your tree to the wall, you don't really decorate the back. Well, to balance out the weight, we put these old baubles at the back because they was water damaged and they'd kind of cracked and stuff. But then we've also got like the memorial things for like people who ain't around anymore. We've got like candle things to put up and all that. It's tradition. It's not about having one of those modern trees.
Some of our baubles are again, it's like you say, some family people are not around anymore, and some of our stuff is really old. Some of our baubles have got to be pushing 70, 80 years old, maybe even. They're really old. And some of the baubles that we have on the tree are glass. They're those nice glass ones where the centers are kind of what's the word? Receded. Yeah, not receded. But the centers are kind of like inverted. They kind of go in.
Concave.
Concave. Yes, that's the word. So it's got those really gorgeous. And the old ones are amazing. They're made of glass. They have a totally different finish to them. They look really amazing. And I'd say it's a nice mix. So also, like, we've got a box full of like decorations, but there's only like there's about 6 or 7 different sets of bauble, and each one, they're totally different. They're not even. We've got like one set which is like pink, green, yellow, blue, whatever, and they're just like plain colours. The next ones will be white with like stars embedded onto them and stuff like this. Then the next ones will be like red with all kind of gold on and stuff. They all look completely different, but the tree looks awesome when it puts. I put Twitter pictures up of it this year while I was doing it at home and stuff.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was just a picture off of a like Christmas card or something.
Oh yeah, I remember you said yeah. I have to say, my family has slowly gone more and more overboard at Christmas, but it's only because we really enjoy it. It's also from my nagging of like, because I love Christmas, so I'm just like, we have to do it this way. But like you say, it's always some bits and pieces that you remember clearly. Like one for me is like the lanterns. It's my parents' lantern. They weren't even a Christmas thing. It was like my first house that I grew up in when I was little. like, you know, when I went to as a baby.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed there till I was about 7 years old. And my dad used to have like I remember it, but I was very young. But we had like in the dining room there was like a bit of a bar, it was like a small bar like actually built into the sort of dining room area. I don't know whether he did it or whether it was there before. But over the bar, I seem to remember that they were like plastic lanterns. So they were like your kind of coloured Christmas lights, but imagine like quite old style lanterns, like the kind of things you might have like a pub in the kind of Victorian times, you know, those kind of like old style street lanterns. Anyway, they're all kind of coloured, and I think they had them up over the bar. So now every Christmas we have these lanterns up somewhere like over the fireplace or whatever, and it's just become like this big thing. Like every year, have to have them, you know, every year. And there's like ridiculous things like the snowmen posters in the house. We have like these snowmen posters that go on the back of the living room door, and on the front and the other side of the door. But the posters are so old now that the paper's starting to look like wax paper because it's so old, and the edges are totally ruined from all the drawing pins that have been pushed into them. And we were looking at this year, my dad was like, we're going to have to get these mounted or reprinted because they're not going to stay up much longer because the paper's deteriorating so much. Because those things have got to be about 28 years old minimum, you know, something like that. So they're pretty old now. But anyway, yeah, it is a good time of year.
I love Christmas.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, so I could talk about this more. I've actually got some other bits and pieces we could talk about for that, but this has been an hour, so I think that's more than enough time. It's plenty of editing time for me anyway. I want to thank Heartless for joining me this evening for this one. It was a good chat.
Merry Christmas, sir.
Merry Christmas, one and everyone all. But yes, if you haven't checked out Heartless' channel before, I would advise to. A couple of playthroughs that you should definitely check out. Call of Cthulhu is one of my favourite ones, so you should check that. I'll link that as part of this link, so you can do that. And if you haven't checked out my gaming channel, which I'm going to be doing a series of discussions with Heartless on, it's called Looting Gaming. It's linked in the side of my channel, and I hope you'll give it a little look as well. So thanks for watching today, guys. Please leave any questions, comments or other thoughts in the comments below. I read them all as always, and I look forward to seeing you for some more videos next time. Thanks for watching.